Welcome, divers. I am your host, Cosmic.
And I'm your co-host, Twist.
And today's episode is Diddy, Diddy, Diddy. So unless you've been living under a rock these past few months, we all know that Diddy, aka Sean Combs, has been in some hot water these last few months behind many different allegations. And we're going to get into some of those topics today. One of the first things that came out recently about Diddy was the whole Cassie situation. Cassie basically came forward to Diddy first, apparently, and said she wanted X amount of dollars for the trauma she experienced while being with him. He did not want to give her that. And so Cassie took the situation to court and won. And I don't remember how much she won exactly in that lawsuit. Do you remember?
Yes, actually what happened too was her and her counsel did file a lawsuit, okay, stating that all of these things had transpired. Diddy responded in a written statement that this was just a money grab and he was not guilty of any of these accusations, okay? And I think they took a look at the suit and all of his constituents said, you know what, this does not look good and we have a lot at stake. Let's go ahead and just pay out on this, and paid her $30 million.
$30 million. Now, you said that's what you think happened, or is that what happened?
That is what happened. You know, and I know this topic has been talked about ad nauseum, but it's just it is such a topic that everybody is interested in and has an opinion about. And I think that for me in particular, because Diddy was in my day, you know, his rise to power came through the hip hop era that I grew up in. And I really hate to see this happening. Do I like Diddy? Not really, not, you know, particularly, but he's definitely a staple in this thing that we call hip hop. He's played a significant role, and I hate that he's being brought down by this foolery.
Well, he's not being brought down. He brought himself down.
That is true. That is true. That is a correction. But at the same time, I still hate to see it happening.
Yeah. So when it comes to Cassie, there's a lot of opinions that are going around. Basically, why now? Why want reparations, if you will, now? So many years later. And I believe this is past the statutes of limitation, isn't it?
It is for the abuse that we witnessed on that video that leaked. But as far as I can see, why now? And I think that we say that a lot about situations that come about. For example, the Bill Cosby thing. Why now?
Right.
The suit that Trump just had with the lady at the department store.
Right.
This was like 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
Why now? I think it's a question that we all ask about all of these Me Too folks that are coming out now.
And should any action be taken once the crime has been committed so long ago? Because psychology would say your recollection of events dwindles within a matter of days. So years, you can only imagine. Even if the person was raped, they say that within the next day or two, because it's such a traumatic event for the mind, your mind misinterprets details. So it's a very tricky subject. But especially years later, I kind of feel like, you know, if you weren't going to say anything then, why say something now?
I share that same belief, although I have heard that when you are a victim of such circumstances, that there's a lot that comes with that. It's embarrassment, it's denial, it's shame. All of those things play a part. And I think sometimes they just want to say, no, just forget it. You know, I have to take responsibility to some degree. I'm just going to move on with my life. But I think what happens is after they mature, I guess, and grow up and think about it and talk to other people about it, then they get the nerve, I should say, to speak out on what happened to them. Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so, because you're right. You lose details. People don't take it as seriously because so many years have passed by, and maybe the person, the perpetrator now has significant means that they didn't have at that time. It starts making people think that it is a money grab. That's kind of how you feel. Not taking away from their experience, but
I'd feel differently if she came forth and said, this is what my experience was. This is what I experienced
and
being
I don't
with
want
this
any
person.
money.
Not just I don't want any money, but your reasoning for doing it. Your reasoning for doing it should have been, I don't want this to continue happening to other people. So I'm going to come forth and call this person to the carpet. But as far as demanding money and consequence to take place, I think that that's unacceptable. I think if that's what you wanted or if that's what you felt you deserved, that should have been handled when it happened. Now, I'll give Cassie this. Me Too is a new thing that has come about. But once it came about, it's been out, how long has Me Too been out now? About 7 years. So
I don't think it's been that long.
It's recent though.
It's
sure?
Yeah, it's been in recent history. What I think too is that the Me Too movement did give a lot of women courage that they didn't have before. And a lot of women have witnessed that, okay, well, maybe they will believe me. Maybe they will listen. And I think that because of the Me Too movement is why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing now.
Yeah, Me Too movement came to place in October of 2017. So almost 7 years. It could have been sooner, if you ask me. She could have came to the carpet sooner. And I just feel like, I don't know. I feel a type of way about it. But what I will say is that, I feel bad for the girl. I do. I feel bad for all of the horrible things that I've heard when it came to her abuse, especially being defecated on was one of the big ones.
And having sex with multiple people. According to the records, it states that she was made to do these things. I feel, now this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel that there was a part of her that willingly participated, because if it happened one time, say for example, someone forces you to do something one time, why then on earth would you sit around and wait around for something like that to happen again? People will say, oh, well, she was young. They'll say, well, she was manipulated. She was brainwashed. And it's like, you know what? There were, I'm sure, times, now I wasn't there, but I'm sure there were times where she was alone and had the opportunity to exit stage right.
Well, as we talk about this all the time, since it's come out, I have mixed emotions about this, because I kind of feel like everybody, we know, well, if you have done any research on Diddy, they say that Diddy's been responsible for multiple murders, whether it be artists or whether it be people attached to the artist.
The streets say.
That's what the streets would say, that he is a dangerous individual, if you will. So in my mind, I kind of feel like, what was she, 15, 14?
She was 17.
17 when she first came into contact with Diddy?
His artist.
Okay, well, that's a little different than what I thought. She's young, right? She's this young person. And how old was Diddy at the time?
33.
Okay. So she's at a disadvantage here when it comes to the mental game. And I feel like she could have been manipulated, and you don't know what Diddy was telling this girl. bitch, I'll kill you. I'll kill your whole family, or I'll kill whoever was important to her at the time. You know, you better not ever leave me. This, that, and the third. And you can't do anything without me. And then there was also, not only could there have been a fear and manipulation tactic at play, it could also have been, and this is where Cassie needs to take personal accountability, no matter how hard the situation may be, there was a bag at play. There was a bag to be made.
Yes.
So and I'm sure a dream. So he's probably telling her, you know, none of this shit's gonna move without me. And he may have had that pull over the industry at the time. It may have been true. You know, he could have blacklisted her from the industry altogether. So I feel like there were a lot of things at play. And so I will give her that as far as, you know, why she stuck around, or why she didn't leave like she should have or got help. But there's always accountability you just have to take for your actions and say that this happened to me because I didn't do X. Now, why I didn't do X is debatable. Like I said, if it was something like, I'll kill you, or I'll kill whoever you care about, or whatever the case is, especially if it's someone you care about, I can understand why you stay in such a situation, I suppose. I understand. It's a rough thing for me. I cannot crucify the girl. I wasn't there, and I don't know why she stayed. She'll never come forward and say, honestly. And I think there could have been there's so many factors that could have been at play.
There's a lot of truth to that. However, I think I want to go all the way back to Genesis chapter 1, because I believe, I wasn't there, but from what the streets say, she was around when Puff was still with Kim, okay, which was his wife at the time, I believe.
And what does Genesis chapter 1 have to say about this?
Well, in the very beginning...
You're stupid.
She was around.
Mm-hmm.
She saw the kind of man that he was with his wife, Kim.
Explain.
He was abusive to Kim as well. There were a lot of incidents of abuse, is what we're now learning from all of the people who are now coming forward, bodyguards, assistants.
So what did she witness? Nature.
For example, one of the bodyguards stated that they were at some red carpet event, Diddy and Kim. And Kim had done something inside of the event and made Puff really, really upset. And he came out on Sunset Boulevard and was jumping on Kim.
On Kim,
his wife at the time. And what happened was the bodyguard tried to, intervene, and Kim ran and hid over there on the side of the car, and he went over there and started molly-whopping her over there.
And Cassie was there.
And Cassie, I don't know if she was physically there. And from what I understand, she witnessed a lot of this abuse that Diddy was giving to Kim. She was his artist at the time. So she was around the environment. She was around the people who talked. The people talked about how Diddy would abuse Kim. And for what Jaguar Wright said, I don't know how true it is, but Jaguar Wright said that Cassie was around during this time. What I don't understand is, if you saw this man and not only saw but heard countless stories about his abuse to his then wife, what made you think it was gonna be different?
Well, I think this is another part of where manipulation could have came into play, because Cassie could have been told that by Diddy, if she witnessed the abuse, that, oh, I would never do that to you. I do this to Kim because she's this, that, and the other. So he could have made her, one, feel comfortable. Two, she could have felt like she wasn't Kim. She was more mild than Kim was. So the things that Kim would, if that's why she's getting jumped on, I would never do that. So it could never happen to me until it does. So I think that could also play a part.
Maybe her naivete did play a part in why she decided to be in a relationship with this person. However, okay, is that, and maybe her young mind is to blame, because anybody who would be around this person would recognize it's the person. It's Puff that's the problem, not anybody who is with him or around him. He's the person, and you are coming into this monster's house. He's not going to stop being a monster just because it's you.
And there's a certain level of social experience that Diddy has over Cassie. He's been at this a long time, I could imagine. So he knows exactly what to tell her to get what response from her. So, or to control and navigate the situation to make her feel quote unquote safe in the moment. Long enough to get his hook synced into her before the real show starts.
I don't know, but to me, I think that after I had experienced abuse for the first time by this person, they say it's always easy for you to say what you're gonna do. You don't know until it happens. I've been in an abusive relationship before. Okay, he didn't have to do all that. With the very first time it happened, I was like, okay, did this? I didn't really know how to respond. To be honest with you, it had to kind of sink in, and then I even went as far as to say, well, maybe I shouldn't have. Well, maybe I did that, and then the second time it happened, I was like, okay, this is going to be a routine. This is going to be a routine, and you know what? I don't want any parts of this. And had I ever been in an abusive relationship before? No, but I've known people who were.
Right.
I've known people who said, well, he said he'd never do it again. And then a few weeks later, we're in the same scenario, even worse.
Right.
But I've always been that kind of a person. I'm no different than anybody else. And my situation is no different than anybody else's. Are the faces different? Yes. But the scenarios are
But that's not
same.
true. Your experience is different. As you said, you knew people who were in abusive relationships. I personally have not known anyone to be in an abusive relationship. I've never had a friend and she's come showing up to the little kickback with the black eye or bruises or anything like that. So I've never been told anything before. So I have no experience with someone in an abusive relationship. Now I pay attention. I absorb all information, and I've witnessed movies and TV shows and heard of experiences from other women who are on social media of some kind talk about their experience. But have I personally known someone? No. And social media wasn't a thing when Cassie was 17 or whatnot. So if you don't know, if you don't have this experience, this is your first exposure to something like this.
Okay, let me give you an example. When crack first came on the scene, it was in the 80s. Okay, I was a teenager.
Okay.
And over the years, I saw people lose everything.
Like in real life?
Real life.
Okay.
I saw them lose their homes, their marriages, their families, and end up over there on Skid Row. All for crack cocaine. Okay. And not only did I see these things in real life, but I also heard of stories.
Yes.
Okay. So in my little experimenting era where I was experimenting with different things, I never touched crack cocaine.
But see, what you're missing is you got the personal in life, in real time experience. You saw it happen. So you saw people lose things. You saw people lives destroyed. But if you've never seen it in real life, it doesn't really hit home for you.
You're assuming she had never seen it.
I'm assuming,
That's
yes, this is an assumption.
That's an assumption.
Yes.
But for me, I never tried crack cocaine because I'm not different. I'm no different than any of those other people who thought they could handle it. If it's taking out if it's taking out people like that, I don't want no parts of it. So the same scenario with me when I was in the abusive relationship. I don't want to be that one saying, well, he said he'd never do it again and I love him and I think we can make it work. I don't want to be that person, because if a person has a propensity to do something, they're going to do it no matter who is in the scenario at that time. Now, you can blow smoke up your own ass if you want to and think that, oh, I'm so cute. Oh, I'm so smart. Oh, I'm different. And then you'll be down at the domestic violence, right? You're hotline, calling the hotlines and down at the shelter, because it just doesn't work that way. People who do things are going to do it no matter what or who or what you look like. They're going to do it because it's who they are.
And as true as that may be, Cassie did not have that wherewithal to understand that at the time, and therefore fell victim to many atrocities in her little time with Diddy. I feel bad for the girl halfway, and then another half of me feels like you had a part to play. One thing I'd like to talk about, or question I always had, was why didn't anyone help her? And in an interview, I don't know who the interview was. It was one of Diddy's bodyguards. He was talking about how he would be talking to Cassie and saying how this isn't right. And, why are you putting up with this? And all of these different things. So someone was trying to help her. And you know what Cassie does? Cassie runs back to Diddy and tells Diddy about the bodyguards having this conversation with her. So after hearing that, I kind of felt more so, I don't know why you're saying anything now, because somebody was trying to help you and you didn't want the help for whatever reason that is, whether you had daddy issues, because you were getting something from having this tumultuous relationship with Diddy. You were getting something from it. And I think for you to come out now and say, not to say that Cassie can't have growth and that people can't change their minds, but be honest and be 100% in your experience and what part you played in it. Because somebody tried to help you, and I'm sure that wasn't the only person, and you chose to take your ass back into the depths of hell with Diddy, and that was your choice. It didn't have to go down that way. Now, you could say, oh, I was scared and I didn't know what to do. You had an adult that was trying to help you navigate or get out of the situation, or trying to help you, and you chose not to take it, and that's your fault solely, if you ask me.
I agree with that. Also, there's so many people out in the social stratosphere that are saying, oh, what about all these people that were around them? How come nobody did anything? How come nobody said anything? And you know what? I don't blame them, because they also have mouths to feed.
And how did you know he wasn't going to kill him?
And bills to pay and things to take care of. Now, if I, meaning a person that was in that situation, goes and puts their neck on the line, and only for you to go right back to him.
Not even go back to him. You go back to him and you tell him that I'm trying to break you guys up, or I'm trying to get you away from the situation.
All of that. And the best thing to do is that one time when that person tried to help her by giving her some sound advice, and she went back and told Diddy, that would have been it for me. And I'm sure he shared that experience with other people in the circle. So most people are not going to get involved, especially when they know it's going to fall on deaf ears. And I don't know what people are expecting, them to drag her out of the house or go to the police on Diddy. And it's like, okay, so now everybody's out of a job. There were personal things that they were trying to protect, which anybody can understand understand that.
Based off of everything I know when it comes to domestic violence, by the stories I've heard, I would not help. And I don't intend to help anyone if they're not looking for help. If you're not on your head about getting away and being safe and resolving the situation, I have no interest in really, and you have to come to me a couple times, because, you know, some people say, oh, I want to get away, and then they get away for 3 days and then they end up back over there. If you're not interested in helping yourself, I can't help you. And you're going to have some type of backbone and some type of nerve to get up and say that you don't deserve what it is you're going through, because otherwise, if you're running someone like me, I mean, you're just out of luck. I'm not a knight in shining armor. I'm not gonna put my life out on the line for you. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Now, if it was a situation, like if it was the beginning, I might have tried to help her. But after I know that this is just what you do, this is the relationship you're in, I can't help you. I can't help you, and you're out of luck. I mean, I hate to say it, I really do, because I am a save a hoe person in a lot of circumstances. But if you don't have any fight in you, I can't fight for you. It's like I'm not that person. I will help you fight, but I'm not going to fight for you. I just won't do it.
And I think that in listening to a lot of commentary, that's what people were expecting the bystanders to do. They were expecting them to just take control of the situation. But see, my thing is I don't know what her family life was like, but where was all of her family? Mm-hmm. Her mom, dad, siblings, cousins, anybody. Mm-hmm. Where were they? And I do understand that in abusive relationships that they take you away and shield you from your family. Mm-hmm. I do know that does happen. Maybe that was the scenario. I don't know. But she wasn't even 18 years old. What was she doing without a parent nearby? I just don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. Right. But there's too many parents that are letting these kids go into the hands of these people, and they don't know what they're doing, who they are, or what's going to happen to their child, all for the sake of $1.
And sometimes they do know.
Well,
and they choose to say, well, you have to do this for the family. What I've done for you, and you can't put up with that. So some people are selling their kids, I'm gonna say their soul, but in a way their soul, for the sake of having money.
I completely do believe that some know exactly what they're getting into.
Another celebrity that had experienced harsh things at the hands of Diddy was Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber was 15 years old when he stepped onto the scene, and I remember, and there's a video talking about, he was signed to Usher initially. Usher handed him over to Diddy for like a couple days, and he was supposed to do this either it was 24 hours or 72 hours with Diddy ordeal, and it was cool. It seemed to be cool on the video. They're by the car, and Diddy's talking about, how Justin's going to hang out with him for a couple days. They're going to hang out and get into some things and all of that. And come to find out, it was not a good situation. I haven't heard personally Justin Bieber say anything. I know he has said some things, and I believe I heard that someone said he said that there was an instance where he was taking drugs every day, and within that came a lot of sexual abuse. But I haven't heard the video myself, so I don't know. But it's a sad thing, and Justin went through a really, really hard time about what I'd say 4 or 5 years ago. Whenever Yummy came out, he was kind of crashing out a lot, and it looked like he was on drugs then, to be honest. And he went through a really rough period. He seems to be doing a lot better now, and we have seen pictures and things of him crying. And I do know that he came out and said that Diddy was a horrible or disgusting person, and that or the things that he does was horrible and disgusting. And but 15 14 years old. He never stepped out of the limelight. Now, was that because of his dream or because of the parents or whatever the case may be? Who knows? Who's to say?
Well, it kind of reminds me of that scene in Baby Reindeer, where the comedian wanted to be a comedian so bad that he put up with sexual abuse and being taken advantage of. And he now check this out. He was old enough to recognize and realize what was happening, but the want and need for that dream to come to fruition was more important than anything.
And it was Justin's dream. I like to sing myself, and I remember watching Justin Bieber's videos on YouTube when he's like a kid, and he's singing like Chris Brown and all that stuff. I'm singing along. He's like a kid playing on his little guitar sitting on the couch. And so it was his dream. So that had a huge part to play in it. So it's just unfortunate, though. It's unfortunate. I hate that he went through all of that. I hate that any of them went through that. But, if you made the choice as an adult, you have to sit with yourself and say, I may have gone through this, but it was my fault. And inevitably, I played the biggest role in all of this. Did these people do these horrible things to me? Yes. Did this person betray me? Whatever the case is, yes. Did I open the door for that and knew that that's who they were? Yes. So ultimately, the fault lies with you. The weight, the main portion of the weight falls with you. You can't blame someone for being who they are. You can condemn them, but you can't blame someone for being who they are, and you're upset that they were who they were to you.
Well, I completely and 100% agree, but it's almost like, what's most important to me? And if you say that being a star is important to you, then it was a very costly choice.
And accept all that comes with it. Because if you think about it, it's really a pattern. And you think of all these women that accused Bill Cosby of drug and rape and things of that nature. They all were hoping to be a star, to be an actress. And this is something that everybody knows. This is your weakness. And you know what? How bad do you want it? And they proposition, or they might throw out a little tidbit, and you take it or you accept it and you say nothing, and it's only going to get worse from there. At what point does your self-respect trump your dream? And it depends on the person. Some people might feel like, I want this bad enough that what I am experiencing is nothing. Who knows what a lot of these people we see in the limelight every day have been involved in. And some of them accept it and accept what they have had to do to get to where they are. And I can't say whether it eats them up or not, but they're not on here talking about how I doubt Cassie and Justin Bieber are the only ones artists that we know of.
I'm sure there are many.
I don't know. I'm a big believer in, if you're going to play a game, you can't be mad when you lose, and you can't be mad when you get hurt. You play the game. It's almost like playing football, right? You sign this waiver saying this is all the bad things that could happen to you. And if you read that and you sign on that line and say, I still want to play, if you get hurt, there should be no lawsuits. You shouldn't have any feelings about it. You knew that you could get hurt in this sport and in this game. And you chose to play anyway, and you're mad because you didn't come out on top, maybe.
So what you're saying is, when that person recognizes that this is the game,
right,
and then they proceed forward,
right,
there is no one to blame but yourself.
I'm gonna use the reference you used, as in Baby Reindeer. He has an experience where they're first doing drugs. He passes passes out in the hallway, and the guy sticks his hands down his pants and fingers him basically. And he goes, stop, right? And the guy stops. He backs off. In that moment, you've realized,
this is the deal.
Okay, in dealing with this person and what he can bring to my career, this is going to be a part of the package, if you will.
This is the payment. Pound of flesh.
In that moment, because he wasn't like held hostage or anything. He went home after that. So when you go back, you know that not only when you go back, but he's offered drugs again. You know that this is what I am signing up for. I am signing up to you. You should have at home. You should have sat and said, "Oh shit, okay." Like you said, you have to let it sink in and be all like, "Okay, did I give him any like indication that, or okay, is this something that I want to deal with? Okay, well, let me just say he goes back for the second time, right? And he says, the guy puts the drugs on the table and he goes, yeah, I just don't think that I want to do that. And the guy says, okay, well, I don't think we have anything else to talk about. Then And in that moment, you have a split decision to make. Okay, am I going to play the game or am I not going to play the game? Like you said, how bad do you want this dream? And if you make the choice to sign on the dotted line, there's nothing that you can say because it was your choice. It was your choice. Whether the person's right or wrong for placing this expectation on you or, placing these hurdles on you. And this is what you have to do to get X. Whether they're right or wrong, you have the choice to make, and you can't choose to play their game and be mad of the outcome. It's just not, it's not right, it's just not right.
I truly believe that if things had turned out differently, I don't think it would have come to the forefront as it has.
Like if Cassie was a star still to this day.
Yes.
And this is what I'm saying. All of these artists that we see now that have been around for a long time, who've possibly been to Diddy's parties and had those 72 hours with Diddy, I'm sure because their life is so popping, they're not gonna say anything, and they haven't said anything.
I guarantee you, most of the actors, actresses, and artists out there, executives, all of those people, I bet they all, or most, I won't say all, most have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
But they won't tell it because their life is where they want it to be and where they always dreamed it would be. The only people you hear from in these scenarios
are people where the dream didn't come to fruition.
That's right. And that's something that we all have to think about too, because the price they paid was steep.
Yes.
And they feel that they didn't get their money's worth.
But that's the thing. Now, you can't just sign on the line and you could be at practice. Even you don't even have to be in the game. And if you're not good enough, if you don't cut the cheese and say you get your shit rocked and now you have a concussion and brain damage, that's not the game's fault.
Now you
just didn't make the cut.
Right. And now you can't come back and say, okay, I changed my mind now.
And this is what I feel like Cassie is doing.
Yes, I agree with
that. Now, truth be told, Justin is still relevant in today's society. So he did come forward, but not until Cassie said something.
And he's not very clear either as to what his experience is.
Right.
He's very ambiguous. He is saying certain things, but he's not coming out and saying when I was 15 or however old he was, Diddy raped me.
Right.
Diddy forced me to.
Right.
He's not saying those things. He's leaving it up for interpretation.
Yep.
And if you're going to talk, but see, even yet and still, he still won't talk because he thinks whatever's left of his career character is going to be ruined if he does.
Yep.
So whatever people, and I feel bad for the girl. Don't get me wrong. No,
I feel bad for all the
nobody
victims.
wants to see. I mean, we always heard Diddy was this way, but to actually,
I didn't.
But to actually hear it, see it live and in color, was pretty hard to watch.
You mean when he's
in the hotel room, jumping
room
on the girl, when she's trying to leave.
If you haven't seen the video, guys, he's out in the middle of the hallway
in a towel,
and he's kicking the girl, dragging the girl, throwing vases at the girl. It's just, it's not good. I've also seen another video where they are in a hotel room of sorts, and Cassie's hiding under a blanket, or who's supposed to be Cassie. It's Diddy for sure. And Diddy's standing over her like, yeah, you ain't got nothing to say now. Yeah, you have nothing to say. That's what I thought. And you know what this Negro says? He goes, come on, baby, get up. Let's go. You see the beach out here? Let's go running on the beach.
He's sick.
After he probably just got done jumping on her.
He's a sick individual. Diddy has a problem, and probably always has had a problem, probably since he was very young.
They say he smacked his mom.
He has an issue. He's a monster. You can't blame a monster for being a monster. You go to the monster's house, you know he's going to be a monster. So Diddy's a monster, and many in the industry know it. And I think that the people that decide to be in company of him have an agenda. They feel like, okay, whatever I'm going to get out of this relationship is worth what I'm going to pay in flesh.
Yep.
So no matter how young you are, when you become, I think she was like 17 when she became his artist. When she got out there and 18, 19 and started making her own money and things like that, and got more acquainted with the program, she had an option.
Mm-hmm.
She had an option, but that dream was a monster for her.
Yeah.
She wanted it, and this is just my opinion. She wanted it, and she was willing to endure what Diddy was putting out to get it.
And that makes it her fault.
And unfortunately, it didn't
her
work out for her as far as her, stardom. It didn't really work for her and didn't probably end where she wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Damn it. If I can't get it in one way, I'm going to get it in another. Hence the 30 million.
I mean, I guess. And, but I think that's shitty. I think that's shitty because you signed up for it. And when you sign up for something, in my personal belief, that's just that's your choice. That's your choice. It's your choice.
Now, I know a lot of victims of domestic abuse will be sickened by these opinions. However, what I am going to say is that every victim has a choice. Now, is it a favorable choice? No.
Right.
Is it one that is going to be extremely challenging? Yes.
Right.
And a lot of people make the choice to stay because they feel that their situation is better than, for example, going to live in the shelter.
Right.
Taking their 2 or 3 little kids or whatever and go living in the shelter. It is an option for you to get away from this scenario.
Right.
But they'd much rather be in their own homes, their kids in their own rooms, going to the school they're familiar with. See, all of these things are thought about. Is there an option? Always.
Yeah, what kind of frustrates me when it comes to women talk in abusive relationships in particular, and they talk about their kids and, it's good, it's what's best for the kids. What about, I don't know what type of life you grew up in, but what makes you think, and what have you heard that gives you the idea that an abusive household is good for a kid? I kind of feel, well, I'm not going to say that, but it's almost like your intelligence is lacking. That's not a good environment for your kid at all. And in fact, depending on whether you have boys or girls, it doesn't really matter. You're teaching them this is what a relationship looks like. So you're fucking your kid's future by staying in this relationship. Now, if you want to be real and say that you're staying in it for you, because this is what you want to do, that's one thing.
That's a part of it. it makes them feel better
That-
about themselves when they put the onus on, I want my kids to have
And
a
I
mom
have
and a
no
dad.
intention on making you feel good about yourself. If you want to stay there because you're enjoying certain benefits or whatever the case may be, that's why you're there. It's not good for the kids, and you know, it's just, it's really sickening to even hear women say that, because it's just not true. It's just not true. I don't know what it is you know and what you don't know, but some people don't need no kids.
I understand the frustration. A lot of people, you know, who may at some point be listening to this podcast, we are not talking down to the abused, but at the same time, our family, I can say, we are big on being accountable. We are big in understanding that ultimately you are responsible for the choices that you make. Can there be extenuating circumstances? Yes, but ultimately you have a choice. And if you decide to do something, then please understand that it was your choice, not what he did or she did or they did. At the end of the day, it's your choice.
And I'd like to make one thing clear, because she said we do not put down the abused. There is a point in time where the abused becomes a participant. And once you become a participant, I am talking down to you. And I'm talking straight to you because, like Twist just said, you have sat here day in and day out and made a choice. Just like you have to choose to love somebody, you have to choose to deal with somebody too. And you have to choose to be abused. You have to choose, and it's your fault. I blame the participant all the way. Now, the first couple times you're the abused, you know, until you got to get your bearings about yourself. But you've been in this abusive relationship for years. You're not a victim, and you're not an abusee. You're a participant in a very harsh, hardcore game. For whatever reason you're choosing to sign up, you're telling yourself you're signing up for it. You're a participant.
And you know,
and it's just simple.
And there's a person I like to listen to from time to time. His name's Charleston White, and I know he's a very controversial figure, but he says a lot of things that make a lot of sense. And in this scenario, he said what you just said, Cosmic, that she was a participant.
She was a participant
in the whole drug activity, the mental and physical abuse in the relationship. Charleston said he knows people like that all the time. He said they fucking fight and fuck. That's what they do. And there's a lot of truth to that. Now, granted, when you're talking about fighting and physical abuse, yes, the woman's gonna always come out on the losing end. Not unless she has some steel.
I was gonna not even then, because I saw a little video on Twitter just yesterday.
Not even then.
He couldn't get with her.
Well,
she was knocking his teeth down his throat.
Well, there's always
a couple of them that can get with those.
But yes, at some point, just like you said, the first few times, okay, because you're trying to get it together. Like, is this really what's happening in my life right now?
Right.
But as soon as that becomes apparent to you,
that it's a pattern, and that is
right, okay, because he said he wouldn't do it again, and then 6 weeks later, here he is doing it again. Either there's something you're getting out of staying there.
I'll give you a good 4 times. Say a good 4 times, because sometimes you're like thinking like, am I pushing them to do it, or like, or maybe I'll give you a good 4 times, but around the 5th, 6th time, I kind of feel like, and depends on how far spread out they are. I give you now, if it's been, he hit you yesterday and said he wouldn't do it again, and then 2 days later he's jumping on you worse than he was 2 days ago,
even a month or two, that's still a pattern's forming.
It is. So you be responsible for the decisions you make. not everybody's a victim. The real victims to me are the ones who you get punched that first time and you're like, oh hell, oh my, what the fuck? And you get out of you're on your ass to get out of there. Those are real victims. At some point, you're still a victim. Like I said, okay, 2, 4, 3 times. But after it's been a continuous years on years on years on hell a year, years on years and years, you're signing up for that. And you know what? I am always a defender of some people don't have any fire in them. Some people don't have any or a backbone. They don't have any means to defend themselves. And I feel really bad for those people. Some people, you can't stand up for yourself and you never will. And as sad as that may be, it's the truth. And for those people, I feel really, really bad for you. And I don't know what to say to you, to be honest. Hopefully there are knights in shining armor out here. There are. I'm not him, but there are some.
You have to be your own knight in shining armor.
Some people, well, to the point I'm making.
Let me elaborate.
Okay.
Like I said earlier in our conversation, I was in an abusive relationship before you were even thought of.
Right.
Okay, but Monty was here.
Mm-hmm.
And that first time was like a slap or something. I don't even remember what it was, but it was a slap. And I was just like shocked. And I was trying to reconcile what had just happened. And I was like, yeah, I started welling it away. So then the second time, me and Monty were over Enid's house. And we're just having a good old time. And, she always had a whole bunch of people at her house. So we were having fun. We were standing outside, sitting outside, having drinks and stuff. And next thing I know, here his car comes up. And he gets out of the car and kind of starts jogging toward me. And I had a cup, like a coffee cup in my hand. I was drinking some Hennessy in a coffee cup. And I saw him jogging toward me and I took off running. And he caught me by my arm and threw me in a circle kind of. And I fell and the coffee cup hit the sidewalk. And I still remembered having the handle of the coffee cup in my hand, but there was no cup. And he's like yanking me around and stuff, walking me back to the apartment. You better go in there and get your shit, right? So I get my little stuff and gather Monty up and we go home because he didn't feel that I should be out that late. Okay. And then I was like, oh my God. And then Enid calls me the next day and she's crying because she's like, why? I don't understand. Why are you in this relationship? And I'm like, I know. We just moved into this new place. I'm making all these excuses. Okay. Then the third time we were having a disagreement. So we walked outside. We lived in an apartment and our door was right behind the stairs. So we went out and sat on the stairs. I was sitting like the 4th or 5th stair up and he was kind of standing but had his foot on the first step. And we were talking, it was getting a little bit heated and I went to stand up and went down like a step or two and he karate chopped me dead in my chest. Kind of like how that girl did on Baddies. Like that. And I was like, couldn't breathe. Okay. At that point, I was like, it's time to go. This dude's going to kill me or maim me. Or really hurt me. So a couple weeks later, my mom drove down to Rialto, and boy, we packed under the cover of darkness because he was gone somewhere. He was always in LA doing something, and I got the hell out of there. Okay, because that's not what I want for my life, and I don't want that for my son's life either. To see his mom getting beat down.
But you were strong enough to do so?
Well, because I loved me.
Well,
I loved me more than I loved him.
And that's something to speak to.
And I loved my kid. And I didn't want that for him.
That's something to speak to, for sure. I was talking to people who they can't do that for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They don't have that. They don't have love for themselves. They don't have any type of self-preservation. They're just tools to these people who are abusers and guinea pigs, basically. That's just, unfortunately, that's like gold to these abusers, or diamonds to these abusers, because it's the perfect person. They're not gonna go anywhere. They're never gonna fight back. Just like we were listening to Cartoon on YouTube. We're a big fan of him.
Shout out to Cartoon.
And he's talking about the guy in prison, how he watches a guy for a certain little while, and then he's doing research. He's doing his research, and then there comes a point where he pays off all of his debts to folks in case in case he's gone for a while or he dies. And he goes into the person's cell and throws a knife on the floor and says, "There's no way you leave this cell and you're not my prostitute," basically. And he says if that person doesn't immediately get after that knife or stand up or do something,
he knows he got him.
He knows that he has him, no matter what it may seem like. He knows that this person doesn't have any type of anything.
That's like the psychology of it.
The psychology of it is a bitch.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
And so I feel bad for those people that don't love themselves and that don't, but some of them are cockroaches, they'll go through all types of shit and have at the end and outlive it. And, they share their experiences, but why? Why didn't you have any? Why didn't you, But loving yourself is a hard thing to do, especially if it's not something that you're taught to do, if it's not something that, if love wasn't given, the love in the very beginning when you were a kid wasn't given to you so that you could love yourself or learn to. It's very difficult, and I just feel really, really bad for the people who don't have it for themselves. It's very hard for me to understand. I can say I've always loved myself, even as a kid. I had something, I was never gonna let someone just do me any kind of way for too long.
Right.
It's like, you might have messed with me for a while, but I got tired at a point. And I was and I felt some type of way about myself, even then, where I was kind of feeling like, okay, I am not this person, It's like, I'm not this person. I'm going to do something about this.
And that's how I felt.
Some people don't ever have that. And I feel bad. I feel bad for them. I do. Because how do you live happily without it? The world's a dark place. And there are a lot of people who mean you harm or don't mean you well. And if you don't have any type of self-preservation or self-respect, or self-love, it's just, you got to have one of the three, if not all of them.
So all those people out there who may be going through an abusive situation, we're not putting you down, but all we are saying is at some point you have to look in the mirror, because at the end of the day, you're the only person who can help you.
And I hope that it sparks something dormant within you. I hope something's there. And to those who you just feel like you just can't, pray for you, wish you the best.
And Cassie, we wish you the best as well, and hope that you learned a lot from the situations that you've endured. I hope that you'll teach your kids better,
better in your next life.
Yeah, and based on your situation, pass those jewels on to the kids.
Absolutely. She has kids.
She has kids now with her new husband. I don't know how many, but she does have them, yes. So she has moved on, I guess, as effectively as she can.
Right.
But yeah,
So that's all we have for you guys today. say when it comes to Diddy. We will talk about more things because there's so much to talk about. And I fear that we have only scratched the surface of what's really there. And it's a shame. It's a shame that all of these things have happened to people who we've loved. I know one of Cassie's songs. I don't know her music really, but and then Justin Bieber's always been a huge staple in my upbringing as far as music goes. So, I wish them all the best, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Let us know what you guys think about the Diddy situation. I know that this was a heavy podcast and there's some very, very controversial opinions, but that's what makes us different, and I hope that's what makes you different as a listener, that you want to hear all sides and all opinions and not just the ones that are satisfying to society. And I hope you guys dive deep with us again on our next episode. Make sure to give us 5 stars, leave a review of what you think of the podcast, and we'll get back to you guys later. Gone.